Welcome everyone to the Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting number 855. I'd like to welcome all committee members. We've got Councillor Young, Hamill, Councillor Gates, Tozer, Marshall and Neil. And I'd like to welcome, we've got quite a few councillors today, which is great. Councillor Curtis, Wilkinson, Martin and Duran. So is that everyone? I think we've got everyone. Oh, and Fowler. Sorry, my apologies. First of all, tenders and apologies. Absence of leave, nil. Confirmation of minutes, the 854 transport meeting. Can I get a mover? Councillor, it says Marshall, but it's Tozer. And seconder, Councillor Gates. All in favour? Carry. Tried to throw me there, didn't you? That's okay. Conflict of interest declarations. Anyone at this stage? Councillor Gates.
Thanks, Chairman. I need to ask the committee what they feel before I make a declaration, but item 7.1 today is the strategy for the completion of the Ocean Way. And I met with the lobbyist about this, and I forget what it's called, the Dune Management Strategy or...
Association.
Yeah, the Dune Protection Association. And when I met with them, I thought it was something about dune protection, but it was actually a lobbyist on behalf of residents who live nearby that perhaps are not wanting to see the Ocean Way completed. I don't have any idea who the members are, but from past experience, I may be conflicted through donations that I have historically received. Mind you, it's 9 and 10 years ago that I took a donation. I'm worried that if I make a declaration, I might miss someone, because I honestly have no idea who the people who have funded this lobbyist are, but I'm presuming that there will be people along that stretch. And I don't know what to do, whether I should make a declaration on on believing the possibility exists that they have funded this. I did prepare 3 declarations of the only ones that I thought I have an awareness could be involved, but
So
up to the committee.
I can let you know that I'm aware Tony Hickey is one of the
okay, so
persons
I have
that has communicated in this space at this stage, and I think it was Ray was the second one. So I thought I'd just raise that this stage.
Well, if that's the case, I need to make declarations, and it's up to the committee whether I remain in the room or not. I have prepared...
Didn't you say it was more than 9 to 10 years ago?
It's well outside the relevant term.
So you don't actually have to make a declaration. It's outside the relevant term. There's no declaration necessary if it's outside the relevant term. If you want to, you can.
That's right. It's up to you, but that's my understanding.
You're going to perceive conflict now, aren't you?
But
Yeah, it's not prescribed, but I would be more comfortable putting it on the record, Chairman, if the councillors have an appetite to listen to me once again.
It's actually up to you to determine
which
whether
they
you'd
probably
like that,
don't.
so yes.
But the donations at the time, even though it was 10 or so years ago, I received donations. I have to do them one at a time, but I received from Hickey Lawyers in 2014, $2,500, 2015, $2,500, and 2016, $2,500. I have not met with Hickey Lawyers or discussed this matter with them at any time, but I did meet with the lobbyist who was presenting information on behalf of a group of people. Do you need this? Sorry. And the next one... Oh, sorry, you need to deal with them one at a time.
Do one at a time.
Councillor Tozer.
So just so we're very clear about the declaration, these donations occurred 9 and 10 years ago, and there hasn't been any contact about this matter with the person involved, any representative Hickey Lawyers. Yeah, look, I'm happy to move that Councillor Gates should remain in the room and participate in the public interest because the matter, as declared, is minor and remote.
Yeah. And outside the prescribed.
And outside the prescribed term for declaration, yeah.
The relevant term, sorry. Just
Whatever you like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's not my call, but it's not a prescribed term, it's a relevant term.
Sorry, relevant term.
We'll just get up here first.
Did you update the register? Did you update the lobbyist register?
Yes, I did. I did. I thought it was about June management after the cyclone.
What's that? Yes. And it may have been Councillor Gates, but they have contacted me as well, the
Well,
same
that's
group, in
fine.
relation to this matter.
Yeah, good.
And they're the only ones I can find that were potentially donors all that time ago.
Oh, we don't have that one anymore, do we? I don't. Do we have minor and remote?
It's your motion.
I'm just trying to look at the pre-filled ones. Yeah, that's one. Yeah. If it's okay to request, maybe we could have that outside the relevant term elements added to the pre-populated options, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, I'm at outside of the relevant term, such that yeah. So it's probably the interest as disclosed. The interest as disclosed is outside. Oh, no. The interest as disclosed. We're making the assumption that that's all there is. I'm sure there is. That's all there is. Yep.
Comfortable with that?
Yep.
Councillor Fraser, can I have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. We'll have a division. All in favour?
Yeah.
So Councillor Young, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Marshall, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Taylor did not vote, Councillor Gates. Carry. And that was for Tony Hickey. Tony Hickey, yep.
Sorry, what was that one?
Okay. For personal, okay.
I just don't think these are.
Sorry.
I don't think these are even declarable, Councillor Gates.
You don't have to, but it's up to individual if they feel that they want to.
I'm not meant to. I'm not putting pressure on you. I'm just.
I wish they weren't, and I wish there wasn't a perception, but it has bitten me before, and I'd rather just be certain that everyone's aware and be transparent.
Especially, I guess, if it's before.
Oh, I don't know that. I don't know that. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't believe that's so. I don't know the interest of any of these people is, or even if they're involved, other than the chairman's told me
So
they've made contact.
So the relationship to the councillor is that he was a donor, and the relationship of the other person's interest in the matter is that he is a representative of the Dune Protection Association, whatever the Gold Coast Dune and Beach Protection Association. Dune and Beach.
Is he a member or a representative?
He's definitely a representative because he came with the lobbyist to meet with me.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And spoke most of the time. And he was very polite and pleasant, and I heard them out.
Well, I only met with the one person.
Well, yeah, I met with both of them.
Sorry. I think it's the first time I've ever had to declare it.
I can confirm I received an email in relation to this matter also from Tony Hickey. Councillor Tozer, are you happy to move? Same motion? Yep. Seconder, Councillor O'Neill. So we'll put it to you. All in favour, division, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Young, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Marshall, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Gates did not vote. Carried. One more?
I don't know. I've had a donation in 2015 and 16 from Ray John. It's the first time I've ever had to declare them, and I'm not quite sure who Ray John is, but I am aware that the Ray family live on that stretch as well. So
Different. I think Ray John is a different organisation. Isn't Ray John Hembro's organisation?
I don't know.
It's not. I don't believe it's. Oh, you think it's Jack and Tom Ray?
No, I think you're right.
Oh.
So Ray John is John Hembro.
Okay.
Tom Ray or Jack Ray, one of the Ray brothers, lives down that way. But
Okay, well, I don't have anything from them, just Ray John. I thought it was them.
no, Ray John's directors under the Hembro family.
Okay, we'll cancel that.
Leave that one at this stage. Comfortable, Councillor Gates?
Thank you. Sorry.
No, thank you. So we've got two start items. First one, 5.1 and 7.2. Does anyone want to unstart any? Sorry.
I just had a matter relating to the forward planning schedule. Just if we're putting the forward planning schedule in, can we just omit the current cycles items? So the forward planning schedule on this, the one we're adopting today, has all of today's items on it.
Yeah.
So just, you don't need to put that in. So just put, look at the
Forward.
whatever meeting we're in, the forward planning schedule should have from
Okay.
next month's items. It just needs to be updated. And that's, I don't think it's really just administrative, but
Yep.
I don't think we
Take
need
it
to
on
unstar
board.
it.
Yep. Thank you. So we've still got 5.1 and 7.2. Does anyone want to unstar any of those? 7.2.
Hang on.
So we'll unstar 7.2, so it's only 5.1, the Infrastructure Gold Coast Forward Planning Scheme. Can I get a mover? Councillor Young. Can I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Tozer. All in favour? Carry. So that's 5.1. We'll now go to 6 Point Road Asset Management Strategy Update. We've got Mark Vaughan. We'll be doing a presentation.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, guys. I'm here to just give you guys an update on the road asset management investment strategy. We have been speaking to you guys recently about it, and I just wanted to let you know where it is at. And sorry, before I jump off that, credit to the guys that found a photo of Cavill Avenue from 1926, I reckon, is a river.
Beautiful.
Okay, so a lot of you took the opportunity to visit the NTRO equipment that was here. We had the larger truck and we had the smaller iPave unit that was going around the city. Now, we've got all of that data and we had been due to come back to committee with an update on the investment that was going to flow from, or the investment priority that was going to flow from that. So the purpose of today's presentation is to, one, explain what we're doing, and also explain why we're not back with that finalised document yet. So what's happened is that we've actually had a change in methodology with the data capture. So what used to happen was we used to have officers of the company that collected the data doing a visual assessment of all the CCTV footage, and you'll see the lady on the right of screen there, she's doing that work now. Now we've got laser detection for all of our cracking. So what's essentially happened is that we've come back with a different. We're not comparing apples with our history, and we're trying to make sense of that and use the data for the best way forward. And I've got a couple of slides that'll explain that further. So where we're at the moment, we've done the condition assessment, we've done our first assessment of results. We're now in a validation stage. So the team is going out and we all know this leads to a PCI score for each individual road segment. We're going out to those road segments and trying to understand why we've got some fairly dramatic drops in the scoring compared to what we had and what we are now registering. It's not that the road condition has changed substantially, it's just the methodology that we've used for that data capture, and as being, I suppose, the overall score is being dragged down by the cracking scores that we're getting on our data. So we're working through that at the moment. We're doing a lot of field validation where officers are going out to look at individual road segments, and it's consistently coming back that the road is more like what we had previously scored it to be, but we are now seeing the finer cracking that is there. And I've got a couple of other slides that will further explain. What we want to talk about here is, I suppose, our response to it. So there are many ways that we can actually intervene with the road. So we can do a preservation treatment, we can do a surface renewal, we can do a reconstruction, or we can do maintenance as we go along. We're trying to put it more and more in the reconstruction, in the preservation, and get it out of the major interventions. So when we start to get to mill and fill, or we actually get to a full reconstruction, that's where we're spending significantly more money than if we had just done a preservation. And what we're actually finding is that with all the cracking data that we've now got, we'll be able to set up a program that has much more preservation in it, and we're trying to hold the roads at a better condition. So this slide here shows what we're talking about here is that where we've got the up the top there, where we got the don't know how to describe that. I'm going to call it a zigzag. The zigzag. What are you going? Opera House. Thanks, Councillor Young. Where we've got the Opera House type model there, that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to more regularly spend a low amount of money on our roads doing preservation, rather than letting it drop and getting at the stage where we need to do a complete road reconstruction. Because if we let it get to that stage, that's where we'll be able to. Once we let it get to that stage, it's beyond a preservation treatment, and the cost to actually make that intervention of substantially more. So when we talk about our total cost of management of the roads, it's far better if we can keep it up and just doing regular preservation treatments. So what has happened in this year's budget? So the data that we were collecting was never intended to inform this year's budget. We were really trying, because this year's budget, the roads that we'd actually identified for reconstruction are already well advanced. The designs are done, and it was always that this year's program, or this coming year's program that you've got in the budget books, was always going to be set on historical data. But the following year's data is where we're expecting to be able to use the information we've got, and we still think that we can. The one change that we have made, though, is we've actually allowed $5 million more in the road preservation area, because we think that we can get onto that quite quickly, and we can use the data that we've already got, and we can start sealing up those roads where we've got a lot of the minor cracking, and that will end up us having a better whole of life cost, and will prevent those roads getting to a stage where we need to do a more expensive mill and fill treatment, or even more expensive road reconstruction. The last slide, and look, the picture on the right there is actually worth having a look at. That's one of the types of cracking that we're picking up. So you'll see that that road there with that longitudinal crack down the road, that would have been laid in two halves. So, and that's just the joint between the two halves of that construction. That's a regular failure that's now been picked up with our new crack detection. That would have been ignored previously by the person doing the manual assessment, and that road that you can see that is in good condition is now coming up as having a substantial crack in it. So we're just working through that, making sure that we pick those things up with a joint seal rather than something more significant. So timeline-wise, we're obviously here in the April-May phase. We're still doing the defect data validation. Our overall condition data validation, that'll take place in the balance of May. We'll do some scenarios in June and July. Presentation of results will come back to August, October, and a report will come back to TIC in November. So we're still working through all of this. Just wanted you councillors to understand that that's the reason that you hadn't had the report back already.
Councillor Gates.
Thanks, Chairman. Just wondering through you how we're going to address this problem moving forward with the vehicle if it's picking up micro cracking, and clearly then we're having to double up with officers on-site inspection. I mean, there's no funding in this report, funding requirement, but is that how is that going to be managed, please?
Through the chair, we actually see it not as a problem, more as an opportunity. We think that actually understanding this micro cracking is a really good thing, because we'll get on top of our roads earlier. So what we want to do is, it's the first time we've had this data, and we think it can lead to us focusing far more on preservation rather than allowing our roads to fail. So it's short-term pain, and we're really trying to work through it and prioritise off the data. And to do that, we need to do some of this field validation work. But long-term, it's great news. Okay. It's great news that we've got this data.
Thank you.
Councillor Young.
Sorry. Just on that, I'd imagine you could use AI to filter out a lot of that very minor cracking and stuff that's a seal like that, or a joint. So this joint would be dealt with as a preservation project. Is that the idea? Thank you. Thanks.
That was the last slide, Councillor. So unless there are any other questions, we've got a lot to go through. I'll say I'm done.
Councillor Gates, you want to move it? Any other questions though before we go?
Up to a second.
Okay, we'll move Councillor Gates, second to Councillor Tozer. Anyone?
Actually, there's a little question. Is it nothing? There's nothing preventing us from using those slides just to help explain to the community about the roads? You're happy with the Opera House shot? Us just using those whenever we like?
Yeah, it's fine. If you'd like, we can probably work with our marketing team to make a fact sheet or something like that you could use.
Yeah, I mean, just that graph to show. There's one where $1 spent here is equal
Money
to,
saved here. Yeah.
yeah, that'd be great. If you could just flick through that side as a JPEG or something, that'd be awesome.
Okay, we'll do.
Councillor Gates, do you want to move it? Yep. Got a second. Councillor Tozer, do you want to speak to it at all, Councillor Gates?
Well, briefly, just to say that we're getting a lot more information back from officers, and I took the opportunity to have a look at the truck, and it's really fantastic to see that is being utilised right across the city to identify work that needs to be done, and especially, as you've explained, in advance of major work, which will help the longevity of the road. So well done to the staff.
Thank you. We'll
Okay.
take the vote. All in favour? Carry. Thank you, Mark. 6.2, development of the city of the Gold Coast Urban Forest Plan 24 to 34. We've got Elise and Courtney, I believe, doing a presentation.
I've just got a matter of, like, just before we kick off, just in the recommendation for this was really disconcerting in that if the Transport Committee recommends that Council note or do something, it doesn't need to then be referred to the Lifestyle Committee. There's no like all of the committees are equally subordinate to the full council meeting, and so there's no advantage with this matter coming to the LER committee in the recommendation. It just doesn't add any value. Anyone who, like, firstly, because everyone's here anyway.
Yeah, 6.2.
But in normal practice, we just wouldn't have that as part of the recommendation. So I've already met with the team, and I'm very supportive of the urban forest plan, but the recommendation doesn't make any pragmatic sense.
I think it was just a recognition that the city's core environmental team and decision making is the LER committee, and whilst we want the report, or we want the body work to be spearheaded and led by the asset managers of the urban forests, it's really important that we get the strategic intent for why we manage an urban forest better, which we thought the best way to would be to present the body work that we've done up through our environment committee. That was
Got it.
That was it.
The key decision-making entity in the city is the council, and if council's considered something, it shouldn't be referred back to a committee unless there's a practical change.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that was our explanation.
So
What I'm trying to say, as the chair of the Lifestyle Committee, I actually don't ever want to be in conflict with the chair of the Transport Committee. In councils in the past, there has been committees kind of banging up against each other, trying to get two different things through, and that's not a practical or good way, a good governance.
So
way
what
to
we'll do, we'll get through the presentation,
of course,
and then we can review and we can look at the change in that, and if we feel that we can remove part two,
nip it in the bud. I don't want to fight with you.
No, perfect. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and councillors. I'm Elise Baker, and I'm here to seek your endorsement to develop the Gold Coast Urban Forest Plan. We all understand the benefits trees provide, such as cooling and amenity. Trees and parks transform the quality of life in Australian cities, but remain vastly undervalued. This is why we need an urban forest plan. So just to run you through a brief outline of what I'll be talking to you about today: why we need an urban forest plan, where the urban forest is located, some of the key components included in the plan, and our next steps after today. Our community want this. The community have told us recently, as part of study surveys for the local growth management strategy, that the urban forest is a top value and priority for them. This is over and above housing affordability and transportation. The plan will also deliver on our own council plan, themes naturally unique and livable places. It will deliver a signature action from our 2024-2025 operational plan to implement urban native green initiatives. And it aligns with the South East Queensland Regional Plan Priority Actions 10 and 12 relating to heat mitigation and urban canopy cover. We are the second largest local government area in Australia, and we need to be seen to be leaders in this space. We need to show asset maturity for our green infrastructure. So the urban forest is located within the urban footprint, as identified in pink on this map, and it includes all trees and shrubs located on both public land and private land. Councillors, I have met with most of you to discuss your and your community's priorities regarding tree management and the urban forest. This plan will deliver on these priorities. The plan will work through solutions for site-specific matters, such as trees on public land encroaching onto private land, and refining our tree planting principles. The plan will set appropriate canopy cover benchmarks and future canopy cover targets based on scientific evidence to plan our green infrastructure into the future. We have a real opportunity to positively impact the city's economy and city livability. Australian studies have proven urban tree canopy cover can increase property value. Appropriate canopy cover cools down our city, making it a more pleasant and enjoyable place to live. However, managing an urban forest does not come without its challenges. And a challenge the urban forest is facing is a growing city, and with that, an increase in urban development. And this is impacting the space available for our green infrastructure. So the pictures to the right of this slide shows tree canopy cover mapping, while the right is thermal heat mapping. The above is one site and below is site 2. So you can see in site 1, where there isn't appropriate tree canopy cover, how much hotter that suburb is, compared to site 2, where we have a more appropriate level of tree canopy cover and the cooling effect it has on that area. What these photos are demonstrating is the effect appropriate tree canopy cover can have on temperature. The plan will develop strategies to address both legacy and future conflicts between built infrastructure assets and tree assets, including roads, footpaths, sewers, and power lines. We want to ensure that the right tree species is selected for every location. There are innovative solutions for trees and other infrastructure to coexist that our city can utilise, allowing trees to thrive without damaging our hard assets, providing synergy between our grey and green assets. The urban forest is more than just greenery. It is a vital investment into the health and the resilience of the city and the community. The benefits can be far-reaching. To name a few, a healthy urban forest can increase property value and boost tourism to the city. It creates shade. This is Australia. It's hot 9 months of the year. Also, it will create a city to be proud of. Urban forest transforms our neighbourhoods into beautiful, vibrant places where people want to live, work and thrive. If endorsement to develop the plan is given today, over the next 12 to 18 months, we'll develop an internal team, partner with groups across the city to develop this plan. We will take on targeted consultation with yourselves, councillors, and community workshops to develop a plan to guide the management of our tree assets. The Urban Forest Plan is a critical step to ensuring a resilient and safe environment for Gold Coasters to enjoy for generations to come. This concludes my presentation and I'm happy to take on any questions.
Questions, Councillor Gates.
just before we get into questions, through you, Chair, can you help me understand why this is at this committee?
Yes, through the chair, the relationship with infrastructure is very intrinsic. So there's an element, I guess, in developing the urban forest plan and ensuring that it aligns,
Because of the way they might
integrates with
react
infrastructure.
to footpaths or roads.
Exactly. So the constraints, species
They're all owned by
selection.
these guys.
Sorry?
All the trees in the city are owned by these guys. My community doesn't own any of them, unless they're in a natural area, which is a different strategy.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, that's fine. There's always been a greening plan within the city for a long time without, I think, a specific budget allocation other than for the planting trees. Is this more, as a result of the 2023 storm and the cyclone, to ensure the right species in the right locations?
Yeah, through the chair, there's obviously been a significant loss of canopy through those events, but that is not solely what has driven this plan and this approach. It's to provide us a more holistic, longer-term strategy to make sure that we have the right species selection, that we're actually uplifting where there is opportunities for increased canopy. And like any other asset, we're really looking at a long-term master plan. So I'll pass to Ross and Elise if there's anything they'd like to add.
When Ross speaks, perhaps he can address too, because I know we had an exchange of emails because of the delay in proceeding with tree planting replacements, and there's a lot that remain to be replaced since the 2023 storm. And is that because of the preparation necessary for this new strategy that there's a delay, or is it because of a lack of stock? What's the problem? Because I know my community is especially getting frustrated that they lost a street tree and it's a year or year and a half later and it still hasn't been replaced.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor Gates. There's sort of two parts to the question. One is, what's the delay in getting trees in the ground back in locations where the tree fell over? We lost a significant portion of tree stock during that event, and then also the subsequent Cyclone Alfred event. We have on-grow contracts with our suppliers, with our nurseries, to deliver, our usual amount of tree planting that we deliver every year. If all of a sudden we say to them we need 10 times or 5 times the amount, it takes them a long time to get them up to a suitable stock size so that we can actually put them in the ground. The other part of it is we had essentially for the last year and a half, we've had the majority of our resources focused on making sure that our parks and open spaces are safe. Those arborists that are the ones that get out there and scope the work and make sure that the right trees go in the right location have been very busy just making sure that we're looking for not obvious signs, but obvious signs to an arborist as to whether our trees are and our parks are safe. That's been really their focus. We did seek an additional resource, a temporary resource to help it, and they are out there doing that work right now. But of course, the tree stock's not there, so we've got those contracts in place, and the tree stock's coming, and we intend to deliver on that. To your point about, or to your question about the requirement for a urban planting strategy, you will remember that up until a few years ago, the majority of trees went into the ground based on local area works contributions. And that was sort of like that's a process that worked for a long time, but you'll note that not a lot of local area works funding is used for trees anymore. We've got all of that budget. That budget didn't go away. And in fact, it grew. But what that explained and what that told us as asset managers, as asset managers, is that we didn't really have a real strategy to address things like urban heat island effect, or a real strategy in terms of which trees are going in the right location. Before that, it was just we'd scope out some streets, we'd consult with local councillors, and the local council would go this street, that street, and we would, for the most part, just go and deliver those streets. That is not a scientific way to deliver, what is $1.5–2 million worth of trees going in the ground every year. So what we need is a strategic document, or a strategic document that's underpinned by scientific evidence, community needs and wishes, to guide our planting efforts going forward. To the point as to why is it with transport and infrastructure as a program? Well, you will all know when roads and pathways go in and utilities, trees are typically the last thing that gets considered, or they're the easy thing that can be removed to make things easier. What I think is important to recognise, that as a transport department, we want to have a key strategy that everyone in transport understands the value of these assets as a city, and for that to filter down into all the crevices of the infrastructure department, so that when an officer comes and joins the team and starts planning a new footpath, that the project is not a footpath project. The project is a walkable neighbourhood. That is the outcome that we're trying to achieve here. Not a footpath to connect A to B, but a walkable neighbourhood. And that type of plan, which is what we want to develop, is what they will use as their sort of North Star, the why. Why are we building the city this way? Is so that they understand all of those benefits. So, yeah.
So the only other thing I would like to raise is that actually starts at the planning approval stage. And so what will be, how will this work in with the planning assessment officers? Because often the tree species is identified in a planning document, so there will need to be crossover between that, because that's where the initial incorrect planting often starts.
Absolutely. At the moment, we don't have. This is sort of the policy document that we will develop, and so that when we get into the detail of developing up the next iteration of the city plan, it's that when we put those elements in the city plan, they're all underpinned by this this North Star document that really helps shape, to ensure we get the right species in the right location right at the start, right as we've developed these new suburbs and new areas. So,
Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Chair, and as a representative of an area that has developed a pretty profound tree phobia, I really welcome this strategy, because I can tell it's really going to help me explain some of the benefits, and it's going to demonstrate, a really robust planning that goes behind it. You mentioned that the plan will address legacy and future conflicts between trees and built forms. So I wondered, does that translate to maybe an increased appetite to remove trees that currently exist in areas that aren't ideal when they're not the right species? Are we going to see maybe some increased appetite towards that?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Curtis. Look, it's a little bit of both. I think what we mean by that statement is where we've got legacy tree conflicts, because of the value of some of these trees, we may actually look at changing the other pieces of infrastructure around it to accommodate it. Right? But alternatively, if we make a decision that, no, that is clearly the wrong species in the wrong location, it's got to go. And by the way, it's going, but here's all the 10 replacements to that one tree that we want to make a commitment to ensure that over time we grow back the city in a better way, underpinned by sort of the guiding light that this plan will provide us.
Councillor Fowler. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, how much reduction in actual tree planting will occur due to the redirection of funds for the plan? I note that we're going to be producing the plan, which means we're pausing tree planting efforts.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Fowler. We've probably set aside about a third of our overall tree planting budget for a year to develop this plan, right? So that that translates to a third less trees over this point over a period of time in order to develop up this plan and strategy, so that ultimately going forward we're making better decisions and we're getting better bang for buck for our trees going in the ground, because it's underpinned by the plan itself.
And through you, Chair, given community expectations following our recent storm events, is it appropriate to stall tree planting efforts at this stage? And shouldn't we look to, and this is probably a question more for my fellow councillors, but shouldn't we be looking to continuing the tree planting efforts with the planning happening concurrently at the same time?
Through the chair, yes, I would agree with that as well. But of course, we've got a budgetary position where we've got priorities to make as well, and we haven't sought to increase our budget temporarily to create a plan, I suppose. But
one final question, Chair, if that's okay.
No.
So in terms of it being what is required in the budget, if council is of the mind to not reduce the tree planting and have the plan developed at the same time, would we be looking at a non-recurrent $600,000 in the 25-26 budget?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Neal, did you have a question?
Actually, my question was, are we pausing the current street tree planting? Because I've had a couple of streets that have been waiting for a couple of years. So we're actually not going ahead with the current street planting plan for any division?
Through the chair, no, that's not correct. All what we're saying is if we need to set aside some of our annual funding to develop this plan, then that would result in simply a pause or a reduction in the overall tree planting in 1 year. If you've been waiting for 2 years for these particular streets to go in, they will be on the top of the list, so they will continue to get done. It'll be the streets that are on the lower end of the list.
Would be probably helpful just for councillors to get some communication about, what will be delivered over the next 12 months as well. Thanks.
Yep.
Councillor Tozer.
I'm interested in that too, if that's okay. Maybe just a briefing note to councillors about the tree planting program for the coming year, just some identification of some streets. My questions actually relate to the custodianship of trees on front verges, and particularly in light of the last storm, there's been lots of questions from people who live out our way inside the urban area about who's responsible for the trees between the edge of the curb and the property boundary. So my question is, who owns those trees and who's responsible for them? Let's start with that.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Tozer. Between the curb and the property boundary is council land, and that is we are responsible for that tree.
So I'm trying to get my head around. Obviously, in a lot of Mudgeeraba and probably old suburbs throughout the city, there's actually quite a distance between. I think of a street frontage, and the average person probably has less than 6 metres between the front curb and in Mudgeeraba, it's a lot wider than that. We've got wider road reserves, and there's sometimes quite a lot of land, even on my own home. At what point does the responsibility on a property owner to manage or maintain the landscaping between the edge of their property boundary and the street turn from being a landscaping job to being engaged with council as they're the custodian? When did that happen?
So through the chair, if it's a tree and it requires arboricultural work, it would always be the city's responsibility to carry out those works. Yep.
Right.
But if it's mowing and if it's brush and all that sort of stuff, like it's just tied, like if it's not considered a tree per se, it'd be just no different to say the responsibilities of every owner to mow out the front of their.
Yeah. Okay, that clarifies a few things. So I'm probably asking this question with a little bit of in the context of the cleanup for the city. We've been, in my community, we've been saying to people, hey, look, if you've got a tree on the front property and a branch fell off, really you need to get the blue bag and tidy it up themselves. There've been some that are quite significant branches that have evidently fallen from bushes or trees that you have now said are definitely council assets. How should we go about managing that? Is that something that we should add to the cleanup list? Because at the moment, I haven't really been doing that. In fact, I've copped a bit of flack by saying you've got to clean it up yourself.
Through the chair, if it's significant, tree matter and it is causing a risk to people, perhaps walking up and down the sidewalks, then certainly it's a matter for council to clean that up. Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing I have is just this. That some time ago, I don't know where I got it, but my understanding is that when a tree trunk reached a certain diameter, there was an operational works permit or something that needed to remove it. There was a certain size or width, breadth of the tree, and girth, whatever the word I was trying. Councillor Gates is evidently very familiar with the word girth. It's clearly very important to her.
She hasn't got much.
I just lost my train of thought. Have I got that right? Like, so I've been basically telling people, and perhaps now to my error, that if the width of the or the diameter of the trunk is the girth of the trunk. Come on, guys. Is more than, I think it's more than 40 centimetres. Then there needs. It's not even a council piece of legislation.
No, it's the Dividing Fences Act of the State
What's the
Government.
rest of your leave?
Ross.
Sorry. Yeah. Through the
It's a council tree, they can't cut it down, regardless of the size.
Right.
yeah, but so through the chair, if you're talking about a tree that is on council property, they can't touch it. But if it's a council, if they've requested removal of a tree that's on their private property, I'd have to take that on notice as to what dimensions
right.
of the tree.
So if it's on the front, so I think what I'm trying to get at is we've got this urban forest plan, and there's a bunch of frontages with varying sizes of trees. Self-seeding eucalypts on my front lawn, and many front lawns in Mudgeeraba and Reedy Creek and Benogan and great big hinterland suburbs. And no, I'm talking about the area between the front of the property and the curbside.
The verge. Yeah.
Right.
So I've obviously been telling people in error that it's your responsibility to manage that part of the property. And if you've got a seedling you don't want there, pull the thing out. Now, evidently I've been doing the wrong thing, because I thought that when a tree was only a tree once it became a tree, not when it was like a seedling.
Through the chair, if it is their responsibility to maintain the look and the amenity of their road verge between an imaginary line in the ground and the curb. Anything that falls under general maintenance, they can carry out. But if they're working on a tree, like if it's tree work that requires the use of an arborist or should require the use of a tree service, then that should be council.
So, Ross, can I answer? A tree is an asset, and the asset's owned by the city. So,
correct.
If there is a asset which is a tree of any size, it's an asset of the city.
So the reason this matters to this item is not because I'm asking about the cleanup or other things, but to what extent are we then, through the urban forest plan, going to engage with residents about how they manage the varying sizes of trees on the front of their property? Are we just managing that, or are we expecting council residents to?
Through the chair, so as part of the development of this plan, we are going to endeavour to consult extensively with various cohorts of the community, the hinterland properties, properties that might have one single tree out the front of their property, to get a good cross section of the community in terms of how they want to see the urban forest managed. I'm expecting that there will be a lot more to say in those areas that have lots of trees out on their verge, and we will take into consideration all of their concerns to help us shape not only the urban forest plan, but the subsequent management of trees on council controlled land policy, which is sort of like the how and the mechanics around managing trees on council controlled land. So those two documents will sort of coexist and talk to each other as well. So the benefit of doing this holistic strategy is that we'll have, it'll be an education piece as well, and we'll also be able to get some great feedback and great ideas from the community about how they want to manage trees. And there's talk in the report about verge gardens and the stuff that a lot of other councils are doing that we may look to explore as well. So there's plenty of opportunities to change the way in which we manage the urban forest going forward. And this is that plan to do that.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Firstly, thanks Elise for taking the time to present today and for also coming out and giving some of the councillors briefings on these things. I'm glad, Ross, you just touched on verge garden planting, as that was something that a few people in my community have flagged with me, and I just wanted to reconfirm, just so it's on the public record more or less, that that concept is acknowledged in this particular draft, and of course if it's endorsed today, that's something that I believe would be able to be more or less investigated a little bit further, and the concept would be able to be looked at, I guess, more in detail down the track. But this gives a little bit of a pathway for those types of considerations, doesn't it?
Through the chair, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to just see if we can get some detail around the $600,000. It does say in the budget and funding considerations that the development of the plan does not require any new temporary or permanent positions. Seems like, I don't know, new to this, it seems like an awful lot of money to go to a report or a strategy document. Can you understand what that's going to be spent on, please?
Yep. So through the chair, we've got some recent quotes provided as part of all of the the recent summer storms and the TC Alfred work. Just the cost to get LiDAR and the appropriate studies done on the urban forest or the tree canopy across the city. We've got some quotes sort of north and south that are in the order of sort of between 200,000 and 300,000 just to set that baseline from both an urban heat perspective, so that urban heat island stuff, and also the canopy cover LiDAR study.
Sorry, just to
clarify the other budget. Sorry,
just to clarify that, Ross. So the number you just referenced is to understand what the planting is now within the urban footprint, so that you get the baseline.
Correct.
Okay, and that's external consultants, I assume.
Yeah, so that's technical studies that will do, LiDAR and flyovers to sort of map laser imaging and radar.
Sorry.
It's
area imaging.
It's a survey. It's a technical survey to get a sense of the urban canopy.
Laser beams.
The other part of that funding requirement will probably get the support of a consulting firm to assist with all of the technical studies, bringing it all together. We'll be doing significant community consultation, so that's advertising, paraphernalia, getting people in the room to do all that work. It's a big body of work, and what we're saying in terms of resourcing is that we've got the resources in house and with our partners in lifestyle. The Environment and Heritage Department to, internally to, deliver the work that's required to develop the plan. But what we do say in the report is that, there may be some bold moves that we put up as part of that plan, which will require a future budget allocation. It may be that we come back and say we're going to do X amount of additional tree planting in these various areas for these various reasons. That's going to cost X, Y, Z, but we'll know. We don't have that detail yet. So.
Is this cost pretty consistent with other reports that you can reference? That I'm trying to see if it's benchmark against whether or not this is it does seem high. It's also
through the chair, that those technical survey studies are they're just expensive. So if we want to underpin our decision making and have a plan that sets benchmarks, targets, and we come back every year to say, look, this is where we're at, and we could do targeted analysis going forward. We wouldn't do those types of surveys every year. We'd probably do one every 10 years or so to really see where you're at. We'd have to do it once, I suppose, at least.
Thank you.
No problems. Do we have any more questions? Do we have any more questions from the floor? Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, team. So we have a motion on the screen at the moment. I'm just wondering if we take number 2 out.
I don't think it's necessary. Partly because we have almost the whole council here right now.
Did Lur make a resolution, a recommendation?
About this? Yeah. No.
So he just had a presentation?
No. I had a presentation, as did any councillor who wanted one. Sorry, through the chair.
Councillor Fowler, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. And I'm not on this committee, but I just wondered if the committee would consider, well, now a two, that actually said that tree planting efforts continue throughout the development of the urban forest plan and are not delayed due to budget reallocation. Potentially an additional bit would be with priority given to replacing canopy loss during recent severe weather events. So I'm not sure, I'm not on this committee, but I'm happy to do that at council otherwise.
No, I'd be happy to move that.
Councillor Curtis, yep. Okay. So we've taken out two.
Through the
and
chair.
do you want to bring that up, please? Yes.
Is it the intention to either Councillor Curtis or Councillor Fowler that therefore continues in the 600,000 that was going to be reallocated to this study is additional spending?
It is. That's what it will be.
Right. Big spending.
So, can I ask a question
Councillor
through you to the officers? So, what is the remainder of the budget allocated to tree planting that isn't captured by this urban forest plan?
Through the chair, we'll still have about $1 million. Yep.
Right. And as part of the proposed use of that remaining $1 million, is it likely that we will prioritise storm-affected suburbs first?
Through the chair, I'd have to take that one on notice because it all depends on the availability of which stock we've got planned for which areas and what we've currently got sort of assigned to various areas. But I would say we would still try our best to apportion that the remaining budget across each division accordingly. Yeah.
Councillor Martin, did you have a quick question?
Yeah,
we haven't
thanks,
got a mover
Chair.
or second yet. So.
Just a question on point 2.
Oh, we do have a mover.
My only reservation with the bit about replacing canopy loss is obviously we had some trees falling down on power line assets. We had, in some rare cases, trees that fell on homes. So I just want to make sure, like obviously we had some large, mainly gums, that came down the wind, not going ahead and replacing those gums in those same problematic locations, because I know we've resolved to look at that.
Through the chair, you did not need to resolve to put the right species in the right location. That is baked into the cake. But
thank you.
The majority of the trees that do fall are sort of remnant species that have been around for a long time that are usually there before the house. Yep.
Good.
I'll come over to Mark. I think Mark.
Through the chair. If I can suggest to the councillors, that second dot point there, are we able to put on the back of that is considered a special budget committee? Because we've put together an OPEX budget that doesn't include this, and we may need to make another adjustment to enable this.
And Chair, while we're deliberating about what we will and won't conclude, I just have to admit I got really enthusiastic about Councillor Fowler's motion and neglected to consider the fact that I also am not a member of this committee.
With that in mind, I'm not sure we have a mover yet.
We haven't got a mover.
Councillor Gates.
So I was.
Huh?
What did Mark say?
I didn't say anything.
No, this one.
He said it needs to be subject to special budget committee.
Oh, well, whatever you want.
Councillor Gates, yeah. Councillor Gates, it's yours.
Oh, sorry. That consideration to continuing the tree planting efforts throughout the development of the urban consideration during budget discussion.
So,
and did we? Sorry.
You know what I mean.
Sorry.
Don't you like it, Dan?
Sorry, Councillor Gates, could you just repeat that again?
Okay.
To the
that the matter be referred to special budget for consideration. Is that what you want in there, Mark? Sorry, can I just get clarity, Mr. Vaughan, that that's what you want in there? I kind of understood from Ross that there is a budget available within the current budget, that this 600,000 was 1/3 or thereabouts of the budget. So the budget still remained to continue with the planting.
Through the chair, I took this request as being the committee members would like an extra $600,000 added to the budget, so that we'd be at $1.8 million for tree planting and $600,000 for the study.
Yep. That's what I took.
So if that was a request, that was a net increase of $600,000 that I think needs to be considered at special budget committee, rather than us agreeing to it here without an overall budget position being considered.
So should that be a 3, that the matter be...
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Do you want a 3 for that, Michael?
Thank you.
Or Mark?
Through the chair, I think separating it, we'll have to find the funding through the budget process. So, if you wish to do it.
So was that 3? Keep 3 there. So, Councillor Gates, are you
Okay.
happy with the motion?
Well, yeah, this is obvious. Am I speaking to opening?
Well, I'm going to get a seconder, but you're happy with that
Peter
current?
Young seconded.
Peter, second. Councillor Young? Yes, if you can open.
Okay. So obviously this is another step in the right direction for the city in terms of making sure that we have an appropriate canopy across the city, and we recognise the damage done by the last 2 storms and the expectation of the community. I'd like to acknowledge that point number 2 here, that we continue with tree planting, is entirely the initiative of Councillor Fowler at today's committee, but she's not a member of this committee, so she's put forward this suggestion that we don't compromise the ongoing replanting of trees by a lack of funds, that we try to find those funds to continue with planting and replacement of trees that were damaged in the last 2 storms. And so we will consider this further as part of the budget process for 25-26. But there is no doubt in my mind, and I'm sure in the minds of all councillors, that given our experience over the last couple of years, it's terribly important that we know that the right species are planted in the right places, not only to increase the canopy, but to make sure that the trees that we do plant in this city do not interfere with existing infrastructure. So there's a need for liaison right across the various areas of council, both starting at the lodgement of development plans to make sure that this proposed urban forest plan is absorbed by the planning officers, so that we make sure at that level we're getting the right trees, and all the way through to community requests for tree planting on the road verge. It's good today that it's been clarified that residents should not touch any tree that is on council property. I've actually had residents fined for trimming off the odd branch that might be belting on a car in front of their home. They're not allowed to do it. So it's always important to refer those issues to your divisional councillor so that we can take action on your behalf. But a good initiative, and, yeah, well received.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Tozer?
So first, I want to say how appreciative I am of the urban forest plan and the work that's gone into not only today's presentation, but the consultation of all the councillors. I think was really good. You did a good job there. And I think that, number one, there's no reason I would speak against that first item. I think the urban forest plan is an important part of the work that we're doing. But frankly, I think the suggestion that we should redeploy $600,000 that was allocated to this plan in order to planting more trees in the city, particularly on verges and in those places, I think that doesn't read the room of our city right now. I think it is entirely appropriate for us to find a saving this year in this program while we think about the long-term strategy when it comes to planting trees in our public areas. It is not the right move to add $600,000 to the budget for the sake of planting more trees. That's definitely not the sentiment in my community. My community is very strongly saying, Councillor Tozer, we want you to remove trees that are a danger. And I appreciate this plan is trying to identify where the right trees can be planted and the wrong trees can be planted. I'm fully supportive of the plan. What I'm not supportive of is an increase to our tree planting budget of $600,000 and not pausing. Because I think right now is absolutely the time to pause. This is an absolutely low-hanging branch for us to save money in the budget this year while we reconcile what damage has been done? Where are there areas of improvement? Where are there places where we can plant lots of trees that will be of very little impact on residents? But right now, the idea that we do that, in fact, in lieu of this, I would be very happy to forego all tree planting in Division 9 for 12 months in order to meet the needs of Division 2 or Division 4 in order to help them, plant trees in their area. At the moment, my community does not want this. They do not want another $600,000 worth of trees planted. And frankly, the right thing to do is what the officers recommended. I'll be foreshadowing, number one, just by itself. And I think that's the right way forward for this committee to move.
Anyone want to speak for the motion? Councillor Young.
Chairman, I'll be supporting the motion. Number 2 and number 3 talk about this matter being the matter of actual funding in the future being debated and deliberated and decided by the Special Budget Committee and then Council after that. So those who are, like me, in favour of a shady city, I would expect the endorsement of this.
Anyone against the current motion? Okay, I'm actually going to support the actual motion. I think it's important that I know we're doing a body of work which is really important for our city. And I've seen even in my particular area, we do have certain species that causes challenges to infrastructure. But at the same time, we need to ensure that the plantation or the trees that have been lost, we are replacing them and continue the greening of our city. We are a growing city and we're going to see our city become a lot more denser over a period of time. And I think it's important that we do continue the greening of our city while the body of work is moving forward. This will actually give us the ability to do the work, but then also hopefully implement the right type of species moving forward. But I'm happy to support this resolution. So I put the motion to all in favour.
No, I want to close.
Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt.
Apologies, closed.
May I?
Gosh, I'm going to call the division. I'll call the division when you're ready.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Gates.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the fact that clearly our democracy and our divisional councillor representation is working well, because I quite understand Councillor Tozer's point at this point in time. However, Divisions 1, 2, 3 and 4, maybe 2, 3 and 4 primarily, were incredibly impacted by the storm in 2023. The devastation, and 5. So the devastation was really significant, and we could see a swathe where, what was it called, that thing? Not a Derrico. Yeah, where it moved right across that northern precinct, and it just took out so much of our vegetation, much of which was, historical native vegetation, not trees that the city had actually planted in those locations, but that had been there for hundreds of years. So we do need to keep working on replacement, in my view, and, if it's something that I think is important moving forward in this year's budget. I know that we've got an awful lot to consider during budget, but the fact is this will be considered now as part of the budget, and we will know whether we can make savings elsewhere or whether that's not possible. So to move it to budget, I think, is a fair and reasonable thing to do so that we can see what's available in terms of funding at that time.
Thank you, Councillor Gates. So we'll take the vote. Divisions called. All in favour? Councillor Taylor, Councillor Young, Councillor Gates, Councillor Marshall, Councillor O'Neill. Against? Councillor Tozer. Carried.
Are you against too?
Know what the mayor says, but Wow, that's what I reckon right now. Yeah, that's where it came from. $600,000. Gee whiz.
Division 1 road reserve.
Goodness me. Yeah. Well, we can pull that out of Division 3 road resurfacing.
Thank you.
Get rid of that.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ross. We're still back again here again. 6.3 we're up to, which is a Gold Coast skate and BMX facility.
I'm lucky I've got a Bob barrier here.
Oh dear.
What?
Jody, and I think we've got Ross still. How are you, Jody? So 6.3 committee, Gold Coast skate and BMX facility. So I've got a presentation. Thank you, Jody.
Microphone, that would help. So skate BMX has been a topic of conversation across the city for some time, through the development of high quality facilities to producing some world-class athletes within the city. This was really formalised last year through the resolution to have a look at future facilities across the city and also including pump tracks within the north and south. When having a look at our current strategies, the main alignment is within the Gold Coast Sport and Physical Activity strategy. Although we cross most themes, the main one is Gold Coast. So having a look at the inclusive, equitable and accessible places and spaces and really looking at that accessible infrastructure. So to ensure a holistic approach in planning these facilities, we engaged a consultant to develop the Gold Coast Skate and BMX facility plan. We were lucky enough to have Jesse Noonan as part of the project team. He is a very well-known skater. He also owns Rock and Slide Skateboarding, which is one of our main providers through the Active and Healthy program. And he also runs Skate Advantage, which is the All Abilities skate program that you can see. The vision of the plan, really focusing on grassroots, but also factoring in high performance, making sure that we have a look at the needs of the growing community, so population growth, and also, like I said, accommodating the All Abilities programs. There's also potential opportunity to really piggyback off the 2032 games. The four main outcomes of the plan: continuing to develop our high quality facilities. And we're already known as a global leader for these facilities as well. There's the ability to host big events, both national and international, and also supporting the high performance stream. Facilities included within the plan. We really focus on council owned as well as trustee land, mainly looking at our open space recreation facilities. But there are two community leased facilities in this space as well, being Ashmore BMX and Nerang BMX Club. The types of skate you can see here with your street, also your vert ramp, and from a BMX, the asphalt pump track, as well as your dirt BMX tracks. Which each of those we had to have a look at a certain hierarchy to put some guardrails in place for all of these. So focusing on your local. Next level up is your district. You can see your city pump track at Pizzey. And one which was brought out, which we don't currently have, is a potential iconic facility within the city as well. All of these were grouped using certain standards and really comparing ourselves to local, other local LGAs. So looking at population data, focusing on 5 to 24-year-olds since they seem to be the main user group. The catchment, how far people are willing to travel, facility size, the different skill levels, elements, as well as what other embellishments are required, like lighting. So when having a look at the population data, we did focus on the 5 to 24-year-olds, and this was really comparing ourselves to what local other LGAs do. Comparing 2021 to 2041 data, and having a look at the broader catchment, so larger than your suburbs, and looking at the statistical area level 3, so your SA3 areas. You can see here the map on the left is 2021. There is a real heat map for real growth in the north of the city, and you can see the darker blue within that Nerang and Southport region as well. When you compare that to 2041, North is still on top, but there is an interesting growth within that Southport surface catchment. It actually has the highest population growth within this within this age group, and there's also darker within that Burleigh Broadbeach region as well. So when we're currently comparing what we have to the deficit using that hierarchy and population data, there was a real deficit in local facilities, but we felt like there was a real need to focus on the district and the city. We have a greater catchment, a greater need for that destination park as well, and just so many more opportunities in developing those types of facilities. So the purpose of the plan was really to use it as a process and a guide to sufficiently manage these facilities. You can see here by the suburbs listed that they are the main areas which are really brought out on what we need and where. So in the north, your Pimpama, Coomera, Oxenford. You can see in the central, you've got your Southport, Broadbeach Waters, Nerang, and then the obvious Greenheart potential. So when you bring out Southport, there was a recommendation in there to have a look at a district pump track within Southport. That was also brought out in a recent petition for a pump track in Carey Park as well. So although we had an initial look and it may not be compatible at this stage, we are having a look at if there are any future plans within this development. We could potentially look at it, but it's just bringing out that there was a district pump track already recommended within the plan within that Southport region. The other one is Nerang. So although there was a future facility recommended in Nerang, I want to bring forward that we do have the only national BMX facility within the city, being the Nerang BMX Club. They are a very important asset to the city, but where they currently are, they are constrained. Easements from the property boundaries as well. So there is a potential to have a look at relocating them somewhere else within the city as well, because where they currently are, they're just not able to develop any further within that space. But it is the only national standard BMX track we have within the city. The other one, which I mentioned before, was the potential for an iconic. So only looking at one, either skate park and BMX track. Although there are 3 locations here, it's really having a look at what other opportunities do we have. So iconic doesn't necessarily have to be big, it just needs to be different, unique, really carrying off what the Gold Coast has to offer. So whether it's on the beachfront or really using our landscape and environment. So the main focus of the resolution was regarding the pump tracks. So in consultation with the consultant, we did have a look at some of the primary parks in the north and south of the city and used a multi-criteria assessment. Within that scoring, we also noted that although the north and the city did say that we needed some, there is currently one underway at Kirkin Road and Coomera as well, both skate and BMX. So we're really focusing on what we can actually deliver in the next couple of financial years. Runaway Bay Sports Precinct West came out on top. It aligns with the current draft master plan. We have space. There's already a dirt BMX track there, although underutilised and at a local level. It's right next door to a skate park and also the current youth centre as well. In the south, Goodwin Park actually came out on top from a scoring point of view, but when we had a look at what we could actually deliver and the potential impact to those current local users, we went down the path of Betty Diamond Sports Complex. Again, you can see here we have space. There's a very popular skate park right next door, and there's also a little local dirt track here which we could potentially have a look at renewing and upgrading in that space as well. So the main actions from the plan, when we're having a look at the condition and functionality rating of all of these facilities, there were 4 main recommendations. So removal, although we say we're going to remove it, it's not completely removing it from the network. We had a look at a few of the sites. It's a little local facility. It just doesn't work where it currently is within that park. So although we're recommending we will remove it from that park, we're looking at expanding and upgrading another facility within that same catchment. The renewal program is really important for these types of facilities, making sure that the asset life is extended, but also just general safety. Upgrading facilities, this can be different elements. It can be lighting,
Accessibility is also a big one. So with a lot of our facilities, we could potentially make some minor amendments to actually get the grades right, so we can actually run those accessible programs as well. And then the obvious new, which we haven't done much, but this is the purpose of the plan, to have a look at those provisions, the population data, and seeing exactly what we need and where. When considering any of these new facilities, the other open space embellishments is just as important. So your shade, footpaths, car park, water bobblers. There's also any other opportunities that we have in here. So you can see the plan on the right here. This is Wecker Park. Fowler can agree with me. The outcome that we have here is pretty amazing for a local park. So the basketball used to be a little local skate park. We've used the concrete and we've developed that into a basketball court. Number 9 is the new skate park, which is currently being developed. So one thing to bring forward is that within this plan, we didn't go out for community consultation. We felt, given the age group, there is so much more that we can get out of going to that local catchment, the local kids, and the feedback that we can get from them. And this, using the Wecker Park as an example, is so much more beneficial in going down this path. Number 11 is a new little local pump track. So we do have a dirt pump track where 12 is now, but looking at consolidating all of those into the one area. Then we've got space to potentially expand the car park. I think this is going to be a pretty busy little local park, so we're going to need to future-proof that too. Another factor to bring into this is that potential impacted clubs. So we also haven't spoke to them directly, but that will be the next step coming out of the plan, is really focusing on that local community consultation, as well as speaking with those local clubs as well. So the main recommendations coming out of the report is really using the plan as a guide for future development. Budget, we already have operational budget to have a look at our maintenance. We also have capital budget for renewal. What we don't have is a line item for new and upgrade. That is a recommendation to add a new capital line item, recurring budget, to have a look at those new and upgraded facilities. This will also potentially fund our new pump tracks in the north and south. So looking at the design next financial year to hopefully start construction the year after that. In recommending future pump track locations, Runaway Bay Sports Precinct West, Betty Diamond, but then also responding to the lead petitioner about the Southport Carey Park project as well. And that is all. If anyone has any questions.
Questions? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, through you, Chair. A few years ago, when we were looking at upgrades at Bob Huth Park, officers mentioned that it would be a ideal site for a pump track. I was just wondering if any further consideration has been given to that.
Through the Chair, I'm not aware of that. Is it within Southport?
Yes, yeah.
It's bundled.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So through the Chair, so as per the plan, there has been a recommendation for a future pump track within Southport, and that could potentially be the location if we were to look at that.
Yeah, I remember now. That's correct. Yep.
Councillor Young. Yes, Councillor Young. Yep.
And thanks, Jody, for mentioning Nerang in your presentation today. And I'll just, if I can focus on it for a moment, Chairman. It's currently one of the very few national standard tracks in the country, and it attracts national championship events virtually on an annual basis, and it's a really prime bit of real estate. It's unfortunately very constrained. It has huge overhead power lines, so they can't erect infrastructure like even to shade the contestants, and there's no car parking, things like that. But there's already international teams practicing there. We've had teams recently from Japan and Italy and elsewhere, and that will continue as we march towards the Olympics in Brisbane in 2032. So it's really dear on my objectives to try to get the Nerang BMX Park moved from its current location to a better facility where they've got the space to move and where we can invest in new facilities that will continue to attract contestants who are going to be coming here for the Olympics, because they won't be able to practice in Brisbane at the Olympic site, or well, within a year of the Games, it'll be closed off to them. So a great opportunity for us to be attracting international teams for them to be practicing and here in our city. But the question I wanted to ask is, how can we create this link? It's not represented in the plan that you presented today, and it's not represented in the recommendations, at least of the author. So how can I get a stronger focus on that investment to try to relocate the BMX from its current facility in Nerang to the cycle centre we've got at Nerang, which has got high-speed velodrome track. It's got a criterium track, which is for long distance like road racing. It has the mountain biking. It's the cycle centre for the city, and the BMX is just a little way away. It would be great, in my opinion, to bring the BMX to that site, and I just don't see it's not represented in the recommendations, and I just wonder how to get that recognised and get a bit of momentum behind it. Got any suggestions, please? Easy question.
Do you want me to answer that? Through the chair. Look, I think when it comes to the development of our high performance sporting team or sporting clubs throughout the city, that's a matter that we'll need to deal and work directly with our counterparts in Service Gold Coast, who have a really good understanding of, the growth of every single club and where their membership is going and all those types of things. So no different to how we would normally sort of plan and develop up where a sporting club or a football club would need to expand into. So we would need to basically work with our teams in Service Gold Coast to understand what the current service needs are of sport and BMX. So I guess if there was a change of recognition or a direction or a CR raised regarding some investigation to be done on that, we could certainly do that work in the background.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Firstly, thank you, Jody, for taking the time to give us a briefing, or those council officers like myself you gave a briefing to. It was appreciated. Mine was just in relation, it was touched on a little bit earlier, where you used the word remove in the report, and we were then subsequently using the word replace or relocate. I just thought perhaps could we get that kind of more clearly visible perhaps in this document, just because if we do reflect back, and I realise, not that I think that there's anything tricky going on as such, but if we really wanted to look back and use this report as a guide, the word remove still very clearly is talking about remove, where relocate can at least give the intention of what I believe is the true purpose of that wording in the report. So just some feedback, and if that could be incorporated with consideration or amending that slightly, I think that would be a welcome thing.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Jody, for the presentation. And I totally agree that Betty Diamond's a better pick for a pump track. Just with going out to consultation, are we looking at doing the planning first and then going to consultation, or are you actually going out to consultation about the actual locations?
So through the chair, what we found, especially with WECA, is that developing a concept plan for the park in the first instance, so it gives you an approximate location of what we're looking at, and then what really worked was going through the council and also putting a QR code against that park, and that just gave the local kids a real opportunity. They had a choice, they had pictures of what sort of elements they want within the park, but then also the locals just said, what else do you need to be able to use this park? Do you need a toilet? Do you need the pathways? Like the water bubble at the Shade was a perfect example of what was really brought out in that real local consultation.
So that would be, so you're going out to consultation fairly early in the process. Right, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chair, and through you, I just wanted to go back to Councillor Wilkinson's comment so I had clarity. So when we're saying removal, we're actually talking about where maybe one of the assets doesn't work or isn't used as well, but the replacement might be like a basketball court, was how I interpret it. So I'm wrong, is a relocation of that asset to another location. Yes, so through the chair, it's actually within the report under the outcomes and actions where it has a definition of removal. So although it offers limited value to that
specific park, the recommendation is that we can't afford to lose it from the network. So we would remove it from that local park, but then having a look at upgrade and expanding a park nearby, so then we can make that current skate facility bigger, better, more of a destination.
Understood. Thank you for the clarity.
Do you want to just, sorry, you'll come back to Dan.
Thank you, Chair. And that was what I was actually seeing, and further to Councillor Fowler's comment, that was what I was actually seeking some commentary on. I think the wording in that is actually not reflective of what you've just outlined to a degree. I think it actually doesn't quite hit the mark where it says it offers limited value to the network and there is opportunity to invest in larger facilities within the same catchment. That to me just sounds like you might have identified somewhere else that's better, but it doesn't mean to say that that would be relocated in that way. It just sounds like you pick somewhere else and therefore we're going to remove it here. I think it's much better to have it as removal / relocate to indicate that offering would then therefore end up going to an existing larger facility. That's all. So that was my point that I wanted to try and make. It definitely, I didn't have the thought it would be replaced with another piece of equipment. It was all solely to do with just the skate or the actual offerings at that one spot already.
Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be quick. And thank you, Jody, everyone, for the presentation. Forgive me if you've answered this one, but the new and upgrade requirement in the budget, I have a skate park in Varsity Lakes. I assume that there will be a separate assessment for end of life and upgrade requirements in separate budget that's already catered for rather than needing.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Doran. We already have a renewal budget. That's the bulk of the work that we've done on all skate parks to date has been out of the renewal budget. It's been an existing asset, and we typically work with the councillors, like that Wecker Park example, to invest. Previously, they would have invested in it to actually turn it into an expansion. Just a point I'd like to make as well regarding the relocation is we wouldn't be making those decisions until the asset reaches its end of life. Like, we won't proactively remove something if it gets to a point where it's unsafe, and no different to any other asset that we deal with, that we make a recommendation to councillors to say, hey, look, this asset could probably go away or be relocated. We would do it no different there. What the plan does is we'll actually say, look, this did say to remove, but also on the other side of the page, it'll also say we're upgrading this location here. So the funding that we would normally have apportioned to renewing that asset, we could apportion it to put it somewhere else.
Can I just ask a question where it mentions Kerry Park in here, and we know there's arena, just to clarify the Kerry Park as arena, and obviously, is it a precinct that we're referring to?
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. So I guess the point of addressing that petition as part of this report is because this report was, on the topic, I suppose. We are at the very early stages of planning both the arena and also the public realm and precincts around it. What we have said in the report is that, look, the plan itself does identify a pump track for Southport. Bob Huth Park is likely the better outcome in our view, but it may be. We don't know what that public realm is going to look like in and around the arena. It may very well be that there is some of this type of activity around, that, but we don't know that yet. So we just wanted to provide that answer back to the petitioner to say thank you for that offer. The plan has been developed. We recognise that this is a need for Southport, and we'll work with them on sort of the future planning to identify the site.
Thanks, Ross. Do we have any more questions? Okay, we've got the resolution. We've got a recommendation. Can we get it on the screen? So Councillor O'Neill, happy to move it. Do we have a seconder for the current? Councillor O'Neill?
Oh, I was going to include a number 6, if you don't mind. I don't know if Councillor O'Neill would want to include it in hers, or if I'll make an amendment. It's been given to the office.
Okay, are you happy to look at it, Councillor O'Neill?
Okay, that's all right.
I have no problem with that, Councillor.
Thanks. Well, I'll happily second the motion if you can take it, Chair.
Okay. Second, Councillor Young. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor?
Thanks, Chair.
Open debate.
I just want to thank the officers for a really good report, and I think with the population projection that we know is coming, I think it's only relevant that we actually look at these facilities across the city. I'm very happy with, of course, with looking at a pump track for the south. We don't have that many facilities like that in the south, so this will be a real coup, and I'm sure it will be well used, and I hope well accepted, and I'm sure Runaway Bay will be very happy as well. And Nerang BMX Council, I'm happy to include that. Because it is, as you say, it's nationally accredited, and we really have to make sure that that we look at all upgrades and make sure that it's still potential. It's using it to its potential. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to speak against the motion.
I don't want to speak against, but I just want to acknowledge the Mayor's contribution to this, because having seen the success at Pizzey Park, he stepped up and said he would help with his local area works funding to make sure that there was an additional facility in the north and the south of the city. So just acknowledging that contribution, which has led to the outcome today.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor O'Neill, do you want to close the debate? Oh, sorry.
Thanks, and thanks, Councillor O'Neill, for moving the motion with this inclusion. And thanks to the officers for presenting the report. And I think it just indicates that we are genuinely concerned for the well-being of our young people now and in the future, and the provision of a variety of facilities of different standards and styles across the city is being properly planned and will be provided for. It's very important. In regards to Nerang, I've spoken about that already, but I would be grateful for the support here. We've got the city cycle centre just nearby. It includes a range of different cycle styles, and it would be great to include BMX there. So we've got a very solid focus on cycling, and there is indeed work being undertaken now to redetermine the master plan for that cycle centre. It's sat in a drawer for a few years, and they've pulled it out, and so that's getting some attention. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to look at these two things in combination. I'm glad to see the facility being developed in Wecker Park in Councillor Fowler's area. I was responsible for securing Wecker Park many years ago, so it's a great facility. In addition, I'm sure it would be terrifically used by lots and lots of young people from that surrounding area, and wish everyone well. That's it from me. Thanks.
Want to close? Okay, we'll take the vote. All in favour? Against? Carry. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, team. So 7.1.
Thanks again, Jody. Oh, sorry.
So this is, sorry. 7.1, we're going to do the presentation in open. Okay. We won't take any questions. We will wait until the end of the presentations, and then we'll most probably go into close depending on questions. So I'll hand it over to Ross.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and Councillors. Today I'm going to present to you the Oceanway completion strategy. The Oceanway is part of a broader vision to have our entire coastline and Broadwater connected via a high-quality, active travel facility. It is about creating an iconic, uninterrupted coastal walking and cycling pathway that can take people all the way from Paradise Point down along the Broadwater, then along the coastline all the way from Southport Seaway to the Coolangatta border. Completing the Oceanway is important because it improves connectivity, encourages people off the road, improves people's fitness and well-being, and creates a valuable intergenerational asset and tourism icon. With respect to our coastal lifestyle strategy, connectivity is a big theme, but so too is coastal resilience. This is an important point we must consider because we don't want this enhanced connectivity of the oceanway coming at the expense of coastal resilience. Usage data collected recently highlights the oceanway's value. The recently completed Surfers Paradise South section has almost 10,000 users per day. As the middle column we see here highlights higher levels of pedestrian use compared to cyclists overall, we do see that there are higher percentages of cyclists in the northern sections. Usage demand has increased with population growth, but we also see a benefit to overall use when we fill in a missing section. It is estimated that between 50 and 60,000 people a day utilise the oceanway every day. This level of use underscores the importance of this asset and why the city needs a strategy to complete the oceanway from one end of the coast to the other, regardless of the challenges we need to overcome to finish it. On the screen now is a selection of technical engineering studies that have gone into identifying solutions to deliver the remaining sections. Finishing the oceanway is not a simple task. The majority of remaining sections where the oceanway will go are in considerably more constrained locations, and the challenges are mainly due to the risk associated with coastal erosion. In addition to the studies pertaining to the oceanway, we have a deep understanding of the coastal hazard risks throughout the city through our ongoing monitoring and partnerships with our academic institutions and our leading coastal engineering firms. Many of the remaining sections are in erosion-prone or spatially constrained locations, which presents challenges for the traditional slab-on-ground construction method. Essentially, if you build a footpath on the ground that is not protected by a seawall, it is and should be considered a sacrificial asset. This image of Hollandale Park just a few weeks ago is what happens when an asset is built east of the seawall or on top of the seawall. We have approximately 4.7 kilometres, or about 22% of the oceanway, that has been built in this manner. Here is an image of the latest completed Surfers South section, the majority of which has been built in a sacrificial manner, meaning it has been built as a slab-on-ground pathway, which if coastal erosion occurs, sections of this oceanway will be lost, no different to the sections that we recently lost in Main Beach. The only thing that will reduce, but not eliminate, the risk of coastal erosion damage to this asset is a healthy dune system in front of it. The popularity of this asset means we have to have a backup plan for if and when that asset gets undermined. We need to think about delivering a non-sacrificial asset as its replacement. The most common question asked when posed the problem of the sacrificial parts of the oceanway is, can't we just build a seawall in front of it to protect it? What this slide shows is the effect of moving the seawall towards the ocean. Moving the seawall towards the ocean, even by a small amount, prevents sand from being deposited in the wave zone during an erosion event. This creates a negative feedback loop to the point where even in calm conditions, the seawall will be forever exposed and beach widths significantly reduced. This is not the solution to improve the resilience of the oceanway. This is essentially what we're dealing with right now, currently up at Main Beach. You'll see that there's lengths of the seawall that's exposed, and once that seawall gets exposed, then we get another erosion bit. There's no more sand for it to be taken and deposited back, so it just gets worse and worse. That's that negative feedback loop. So if we go back a section here and we say, okay, let's just put a seawall in front of the pathway we've already built, you will fundamentally change the coastal dynamics of that section of beach to a point where you will basically always see a seawall. And that's not the beach experience we deliver here on the Gold Coast. The majority of pretty much all of our seawalls are buried. So you don't see them, you get that profile. And we need that distance back from the ocean, which is why that A-line is set where it is, to create that beach profile. So the answer to building an oceanway is not to build a seawall in front of it. The solution we are proposing in locations where the alignment puts the traditional slab on ground construction at risk is a non-sacrificial piled boardwalk structure. We have commissioned a coastal engineering firm to explore the viability of this option, and they have confirmed a range of possible options, or a range of options are possible. There is future work to be done on this, and each section of Oceanway will have a different alignment, different ground conditions, different private property interface characteristics that will need to be understood. In the areas where a piled boardwalk is required, we're seeking from Council an appropriate budget to advance the necessary planning and conceptual design work to reach a level of maturity where we can provide Council a full picture of the project costs and design options and construction methodologies before we recommend to a preferred option. If you take a look at the image that I have in the centre, we couldn't really find a better example, but essentially what we're looking at emulating is effectively a piled boardwalk structure that will look and feel like the existing Oceanway. It will just be built and buried under, all that pile and structure will be built and buried under the dunes. What we believe it will do is by having that structure within the dunal area, it's actually like having additional trees in the dune. It actually speed up the resilience of the dune underneath it to the point where we'll basically have a lot of the areas or the missing sections. The boardwalk will just be at grade. But what the difference is if this area experienced a significant erosion event, the dune goes away, but the boardwalk remains in place. We put the handrails on, people can continue to use it, continue to service it, and over time the dune builds back up to a point where it's back level again, in a year or 18 months' time. So this slide shows where the incomplete sections are. We're proposing to complete the Oceanway in a sequenced way, based on factors such as project readiness, coastal risk and deliverability. What is critical, however, is that we aim to deliver these missing sections in a non-sacrificial way. I will go through these missing sections now from north to south. So, our first section that's currently missing, which is currently in phase 3 detailed design work, is a section called the Federation Walk, which is going to connect the Seaway right down to Phillip Park. This is a project that's already funded, and it's a partnership with the state government. This project was a key deliverable of the Spit Master Plan, and we should see this open in the next few years. On the screen now are some of the conceptual images of this project. One of the recent missing sections is Hollandale Park. This is a 300-metre section that recently failed due to the effects of Cyclone Alfred and subsequent swell events. It's important to note that we didn't actually lose this Oceanway during Cyclone Alfred. It was the subsequent swell events that caused the erosion to the point where we've lost the Oceanway here. So a funding allocation will be sought in the 25-26 financial year to design and construct a replacement path through Hollandale Park along a different alignment this time. This time it'll be behind the seawall and resilient to erosion. We will also be seeking disaster recovery funding to assist with these works. The final section, connecting Surfers Paradise to the north, is the main beach section. This section is exposed to considerable coastal hazard risk. Therefore, a traditional slab on ground will not work. This will need to be a piled boardwalk structure. On the screen now is a concept image of what that structure may look like. The Oceanway project in this area will coincide with the planning work that we're currently doing on the seawall completion strategy and also the Northern Beaches protection strategy. Moving south now to Mermaid Beach. The Mermaid Beach North section of Oceanway runs 800 metres from Pratton Park to Ocean Street. There is approximately 8 to 12 metres between the property boundary and the A-line, and thus a 5 metre wide concrete path can be built west of the existing seawall, which will ensure it remains resilient to coastal erosion. So we don't need to do a boardwalk through this section. The This project will also include reconfiguration of Hedges Avenue and Albatross Avenue to incorporate enhanced active transport facilities within the road corridor and to renew all the associated road assets such as the pavement, curbing, ramps, driveways and possible undergrounding of electrical infrastructure to significantly enhance the safety and user experience for active travellers along these two avenues. The Mermaid Central and South sections are progressively more complicated. This is largely due to the alignment of the seawall relative to the property boundaries. As you can see by this image, by the time the Oceanway runs parallel with Albatross Avenue, the seawall is essentially on the property boundary, meaning that all of the dune area in front of it, in front of the properties, is exposed to coastal hazard risk. The reason why we have split the rest of Mermaid Beach section into two is because the central section runs parallel to Hedges Avenue and the southern section runs parallel to Albatross Avenue. Now, there is significantly more width within the road corridor along Albatross Avenue, which will allow us to explore alternative options on the beach side. So because we've got all that extra road width along Albatross Avenue, we might balance out the additional cost of the boardwalk by reducing the width of the boardwalk and leaving it only to pedestrians and prams and wheelchairs, and all of the cyclists may stay on Albatross Road. But this is why we've got those options to explore as part of our planning going forward. A proposed boardwalk solution, as conceptualised on the slide, could be built around and integrated into the North Burleigh headland, providing a safer, more accessible route. The design would include opportunities for seating and shaded viewing platforms. Whilst completion of this section would be a wonderful addition, signifying the approximate halfway point of the coastline, we are not actually seeking any funding to progress this project, this part of the Oceanway at this stage. That's largely because as part of Light Rail Stage 3, we've got a shared facility that terminates at that starts at Thorn Park and basically goes around the tourist park along the highway, then back along Kelly and Hythe Avenues to the park there. So there will be a shared facility going around, albeit it's probably an extra 1.5 k's to walk around. Transport and main roads will deliver an Oceanway over Tallabudger Creek, connecting Road Park in Burleigh Heads to Tallabudger Creek Park at Palm Beach via a dedicated green bridge as part of a future stage of the light rail. The images on this slide can be viewed on the Light Rail Stage 4 website. The Mishing Oceanway through Palm Beach has 3 separate sections, each with their own unique set of challenges likely to require a different approach to solve. The Palm Beach North section, where the current Oceanway ends at 23rd Avenue, we believe we can install a boardwalk through the dunes down to 17th Avenue. This will allow a connection to Jefferson Lane, which will offer pedestrians an alternative to the Gold Coast Highway. The Palm Beach Central section, situated between 17th Avenue and 3rd Avenue, presents a highly complex design and construction scenario. Critically, the A-line is located within property boundaries and in some cases extending up to 15 metres inland, as shown on this slide. So the red line there you can see is the top of the seawall, and those property boundaries basically take up the entire duneal area. This effectively privatises the dune and leaves a narrow strip of usable beach. In order to deliver an Oceanway through this section, we would need to significantly improve the nominal beach widths through Palm Beach. To do so, we would need to deliver additional coastal management interventions through Palm Beach, such as additional artificial reefs or groins, to enable enough build-up of sand over time to install an Oceanway. Basically, we need to build up the profile of the beach at Palm Beach so that that dune continues to advance eastward, so to speak, enough so that we can put a reasonable boardwalk through that duneal system. It would still need to be a boardwalk. It would not be resilient because that's where the seawall's still a long way back. But it's certainly what we have noticed is that the first artificial reef that we installed at Palm Beach did a fantastic job in protecting Palm Beach in this last storm event, and in fact Palm Beach was one of the worst affected parts of the city in the previous event, which was in 2013, Tropical Cyclone Oswald, I think it was. So we know this work can work, and we do know that we have further work to be done in a coastal management space to enhance Palm Beach. So it's also part of our planning. Transport and main roads are currently progressing the planning for an oceanway to cross the Crumman Creek. The new Green Bridge will provide a wider, less steep path across Crumman Creek with connections to Jurrigan Street and Crumman Creek foreshore areas, resulting in a safer, more accessible facility for pedestrians and cyclists with opportunities for shaded viewing areas and rest areas. The Crumman North section runs along the southern side of Crumman Creek, connecting the Crumman Alley car park to Winders Park in the west, and it will also connect to the future bridge coming over from Palm Beach. The current preferred configuration consists of a 900-metre boardwalk and a separated active transport facility along Jurrigan Street. This oceanway will significantly improve pedestrian and cyclist safety, particularly through Jurrigan Street. Our project planning will also consider the integration of this project with a seawall renewal project within the Crumman Alley, and also an open space improvement project, an LGIP project for Winders Park. The Oceanway completion strategy seeks to fully complete the Oceanway within the next 10 years. As part of the 25-26 financial year budget process, we are seeking funding to deliver the Hollandale Park section, the Mermaid Beach North section, which also includes all of the road corridor enhancements for Hedges Avenue and Albatross Avenue, and the Currumbin North section, that connects Winders Park to the Currumbin Alley. We are aiming to have these sections completed within the next 3 to 4 years. For the sections that will require a boardwalk solution, which includes Main Beach, Mermaid Beach Central and South, and the majority of Palm Beach, we are only seeking funding in the 25-26 financial year budget to deliver the planning work required to get these projects up to a Gate 2 project maturity, so that we can have a clear understanding of the project risks, costs, construction methodology and design. For future budget allocations will be sought once we reach that level of maturity to deliver on these sections once the project cost estimate is known. If all goes to plan, we'll have the majority of the Oceanway delivered in time for the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games. The only sections we don't believe are feasible by then will be the Palm Beach Central section and the North Burleigh Headland. Councillors, the city vision talks about lifestyle, connectivity, livability and a thriving economy. There are few assets or initiatives in this city that can significantly deliver on each of those elements. This council, over the years, has always supported the idea of a fully completed Oceanway, and supporting this strategy today puts that idea into action. Any questions?
So it is a confidential item. I suppose what we can do is, if we're talking budgets, we've got to be careful. We may have to go into close. What we might do is take a couple of questions, and then if we feel we have to go in close, we'll depend on the questions. So I'll start off with you, Councillor Tozer.
Thanks. Through you to Ross, if that's okay. There was a picture you showed us of maybe the Hedges Avenue or northern Mermaid area that had a large kind of section of grass. Yes. And it looked like it was between the property boundary and where maybe where the dunes start. That's it there, yeah. Do we maintain that? We mow that, or do they mow it?
It's, through the chair, good question. It's currently road reserve, but majority of the it's actually fenced off. We can't actually get our mowers up into it, so it's maintained by the property owners.
So it's technically our road reserve, but the property owners maintain it as part of their body corporate agreement.
Well, they just, Okay. Some of them, there's only a few sections that look like that. Some of them it's journal areas. Yeah, looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
And question number two, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So in relation to that, it occurs to me that if it's already road reserve, there's not too many environmental approvals that would even be necessary if it's road reserve. But can you help us just, in open, just understand some of that environmental approval approach in places like this, and maybe places like the dunes, and maybe not the places where there's that real legal issue?
Through the chair, we just think it's prudent and good practice to do it or seek environmental approvals through each of these areas. We are dealing in the coastal zone.
So when you say that, you mean referral to the EPBC under the EPBC Act?
Correct. Well, through the state assessment referral agency. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So in places like this, we'll be doing that for every.
We would do it. We have done it for every single project that occurs in the coastal zone. Anyway.
Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So with particularly the Palm Beach areas, we're talking about building east of the A-line, is that correct?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Patterson. The majority of these areas where we're considering a boardwalk, well, they're all in front of the A-line. Yes.
So my understanding is state code and our planning laws require a setback west of minimum 8.1 metres from the A-line for any infrastructure.
Through the chair, that's relating to the seawall, yes. So that's relating to the construction of the seawall, where it's a quasi easement where you're not meant to build sort of west of the seawall, yes.
So our own code and the state code says that we shouldn't do this. Is that right?
Through the chair, no, that's not correct, because we control those areas. This is for private properties. So it's so that we can maintain, or the private owners can maintain the seawall in front of their property. So say if they've got an issue with the seawall in front of their property, that element of that code, means that they can access other people's property to do work on their seawall.
Okay.
That's what that's for.
So through you, Chair, my understanding, the state code that was not regarding private properties, that was regarding protection against erosion and protection of the environment. Is that not the reason for the state code of that setback from the A-line?
Through the chair, I'd have to take that on notice as to whether it's for that matter or not. Yep.
Okay. That's it for the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Gates.
Thank you. As I mentioned before this discussion, I had a briefing from the consultant employed on this one, and he did mention to me the loggerhead turtle, and I wondered whether that will form part of the EPBC referral as well.
Yeah, through the chair, that's exactly why we're going down that path. Yep.
Thank you. I also wonder, and I don't know if you can answer this in open, but with regard to the proposal to do both the Ocean Way and improvements to Hedges and Albatross, why would we do both? Because if we build the Ocean Way, that would, in my understanding, take the conflicts off Hedges and Albatross. Why, or otherwise, why wouldn't we just do the Hedges and Albatross work? That's the first part of my question. The second part of my question is the undergrounding of power at that location. Have there been conversations with the state government about potentially funding that work? Should we agree to proceeding with both the Ocean Way and improvements to those roads?
Through the chair, good. That's a great question. So the first part of the question is, why would we do on-road enhancements to Albatross and Hedges if we're going to have an Ocean Way at the front? You've got to remember that there's a lot of people gain access and still use Hedges Avenue. It is an extremely constrained sort of facility and road reserve as it is. A lot of the works that we're quoting there in terms of road pavement work and all that stuff, it's actually a renewal project as much as it is an upgrade to the sort of active travel facility as well. We think that it's important to both the longevity and that precinct in general, that the on-road solution is enhanced at the same time. Yeah.
So have we had conversations about the undergrounding of power?
Yes, sorry, I forgot
That's
that.
okay.
I forgot that part. So that's an option. When we've done some design, when TMR has done some options analysis and we've partnered with them, one of the things they've contemplated is augmenting the utility network because along that section you've basically got power poles right in the middle of a footpath. So that's one of the options that we'll explore, but certainly we would only ever do that if funding was appropriate and if the budget allowed.
Okay, because it will be very costly, I'm sure, to
yes.
underground the power, and I don't know that council. So I mean, it's included in the recommendation today, which is my concern, because I would hope that we're not committing to something that we've got no idea about in terms of cost, and that also relates to whether it's a boardwalk with piers construction. Do we have any idea how much more costly it would be to provide that sort of outcome as opposed to the existing Ocean Way construction?
Through the chair, there's a deliberate reason we've put possible on that cross section that's on the on the screen there. That cross section needs to be worked through. Cost benefit of actually doing things like undergrounding the power, we need to work through all of these things as the design matures. We'll come up with a final position on. If we had unlimited funds, it'd be amazing to do that, but we don't have unlimited funds. It's something we need to work through and make sure it's the best use of council money to do so, and whatever funding's available too.
See, this recommendation actually suggests that we provide the funding for the full completion as part of the 25-26 budget process, including reconfiguring Hedges Avenue and Albatross, but we don't have the costings. Will those costings be clear for our budget discussions? Because I have a difficulty putting my hand up when we have no idea of what the cost is, given all the other cost escalations
Councillor
that are...
Gates, we might just go into close, if that's okay, because it's a closed item. So
Before we do, can I just make a declaration? So I just wanted to put it on record that I have a record with the City Lobbyist Register. It's up there, it's public, of engaging with the advocates or the supporters for No Ocean Way. So my understanding is we don't actually have to do a declaration of conflict. No, I just want to mention that. Thanks.
Just have to update the register.
So we'll go into close. As the board has considered closed session pursuant to section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulations, 2012 is the reason of the local government budget. So can I have a mover, please? Councillor Hamill, seconder, Councillor O'Neill. All in favour? Carry. working on? So we've been dealing with 7.1 Ocean Way, and we've had some budgetary discussions, but we do have a couple more questions that we would like to ask in open. So, Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, and thanks to the team for presenting in open so that I guess constituents of mine are well aware of what's been discussed. I guess my question, Ross, is mainly just with regard to the northern end of Mermaid Beach, where we are talking about road reserve and converting the road reserve as opposed to a sacrificial structure. The timelines have us still taking a number of years, and I'll have to obviously explain that to constituents. So would you be able to just sort of talk to us as to why it takes that long?
Through the Chair, thank you very much. Look, I think that time frame is realistic for a number of reasons. We mentioned already about the environmental and statutory approval process. That's, we're building in a coastal zone. We're referring it to the federal government for that. That gaining approval through that process takes time. We also must investigate the status of all the existing seawalls through that section, and we're required to deliver on those missing seawalls, and getting and doing that, to ensure that that ocean way that goes in is resilient and non-sacrificial. So that's a more complicated design and planning process as opposed to just boxing out and putting a pathway in. But I guess the third point and the most important point is we want to make sure we work closely with the community through planning and design phases to ensure we meet the expectations of the broader community on the Oceanway users, but also, the affected users that are along that stretch, or the affected residents that are along that stretch. And in order to do that in a meaningful way, that's going to take iteration, and it's going to take a bit of time to do that. And we want to make sure we do that in an honest way. We've found that when we've done that through the Surface South and also the Tugun section, we've worked closely with the community to sort of get, they understand that it's happening. It's all systems go, but we want to work through with them and to get good outcomes regardless. So that's another process, a point in time, I suppose, as to why it takes a bit of time.
Yeah, thanks, Ross, and I'm happy to move it when we're ready to go.
And I think the big thing, this is if the committee and the council endorse, we're actually committing to that part of the project being delivered. I do know the Surface South project. Obviously, there was a lot of those process we had to go through state government, but working really closely with the community along the A line was a really worthwhile project, not only for the interaction for the residents that we had to interact with, but obviously residents as well. So I'll take a couple more questions, and then Councillor Martin, and then Patterson.
Thanks, Chair. Just seeking a bit of clarity, you mentioned around Talabudger Creek and Crumman Creek. You mentioned Light Rail Stage 4, and obviously the state government are reviewing that project. So just seeking, I guess, advice around, will the city continue to plan should that outcome change, and how will that, alternate progress?
Through the Chair, obviously we are not only following the state review, but we're also trying to put in a submission to the state review process that's going on for Light Rail 4 at the moment. Once we get an answer to the state's position on how that project is going to proceed or not proceed, or what form it will take, then we'll be able to better answer your question. At the moment, those two bridges are part of the project. Should that project proceed in a different form, then we'll have to come back and look at it then. But at the moment, the way I see it is that they're part of that project, and that's still the stated position. We're just waiting to see where that lands with the city, with the state.
Councillor Patterson and Councillor Coates.
Thank you, through you, Chair. In recent days, there's been media on state representatives looking to resolve the conflict between different users of our Oceanway. It does appear to be a consistent concern of risk. Is there any intent for us to look at resolving those conflicts before we hop on allocating more funding to expanding the project?
Yep, through the Chair. So we are working with our road safety team to develop initiatives and strategies around reducing incidents on our pathway network. And also as part of our planning for the Oceanway, where possible, we're looking at providing supplementary facilities with, for example, separated on-road cycle facilities, so we reduce the level of conflicts between cyclists and pedestrians on our existing and future pathway networks.
And can I just say that if you look at the Mermaid section, the conflict at the moment compared to pedestrians, bikes and cars at the moment is a higher risk at the moment without some sort of solution. So that's one section that I'm aware of. But yeah, Councillor Patterson.
Follow up through you. One thing that I've understood through some urban planning studies is that with oceanways, and if you do, so the one option to, as you mentioned, to resolve that conflict is to separate the cyclists from the pedestrians, but that can result in cyclists going faster then, and then creating like a highway barrier between people who want to get to the beach. So are we expecting to see stop signs for cyclists so that there's, access ways for people of all abilities to get to the beach without the fear of, being run down?
Yep, through the chair. So we are considering that in our design, and we're looking at the way our paths are constructed to reduce speeds through those areas, but also the way people move through those areas as well. So in areas with higher conflict, designing them in a way that people are required to slow as they come through those areas. They can't continue to speed through there. So we're focusing at the moment around design, but also potentially we have also investigated things like signage, line marking, etc. on pathways to get those results.
Councillor Gates.
Not sure I can ask my question in open, but I'll tell you where it is and you might guide me. It's on page 126. And it's the last dot point of the 5 dot points on the top of the page. And I'm just wondering if that's private property into closed. Chairman, you happy to go back into closed?
Yep. I'm happy to go back into close. So Councillor Tozer, seconded Councillor Master, all in favour. Carry, streaming off.
Be on live stream. Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the city officers for, like I said, putting the presentation in open so that the residents. I want to thank the Chair and the city officers because I've annoyed you for 12 months about this since being elected. This has been my bugbear that I just want, I guess, to get a strategy, like I guess a roadmap to how this could be achieved. So I really appreciate you doing that. For me personally, in 2001, the late Ron Clark actually spoke to a group of us training on Mermaid Beach and said it's the city's desire to have a continuous path and particularly to take pedestrians off Hedges Avenue and to take, I guess, runners, walkers, riders away from cars. That's like 24 years ago now, and certainly Hedges got a hell of a lot busier in that 24 years. And so it's really exciting for me personally and hopefully for everybody in the council to be a part of a team now that hopefully gets the chance to deliver or make decisions to deliver that continuous 36-kilometre pathway. And in particular in my area, I think it's a big, I guess, ticket item for Mermaid. I understand that there will certainly be people that aren't as excited about it as others, but as I think Ross explained, the lead-in and why it's taking so much time to perhaps deliver it is because we want to do everything correctly. We want to take everyone on that journey, and so I really appreciate us doing that and talking about it today.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Anyone else want to speak for? Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Chair, and I absolutely agree with Councillor Marshall, and it's really great to see Crumba North up there as well, with maybe getting legs in the next couple of years would be fantastic. It's well used, and at the moment it's a little bit dangerous with how narrow the road is around, especially around Crumban Alley. So, and to see it integrated with other projects, with a green bridge, hopefully if the state government see fit, and also the upgrade of Winders Park would be absolutely fabulous. We've already done some consultation on it, and it was very, very positive. So thank you, officers, and I hope that when we get to budget, everything goes swimmingly. Thank you.
Anyone want to speak against? I will speak for. Since my time Surface South has come online, and I know when I was initially elected, I went down to the southern end of the Gold Coast where Councillor Gates had her Ocean Way, and there was a lot of support from the community. Sorry, O'Neill, I'd second time I'd done that. And it was a thriving back then, and Surface South has been absolutely amazing. The amount of people that are actually using it, the success of it has been extraordinary. We know we have a challenge with scooters and bikes for our city, but it's in any pathway wherever we have a path anyway. So whether it's on the Ocean Way or whether it's a path we've got through the city, it's a problem that hopefully will be looked at by state government. And as a city, we've got to continue to look at options in relation to segregating our paths in the longer term as a city. We know that we have to make sure that beach protection is the city's number one priority. Because we've just had a major weather event, and with weather changing, there couldn't be other weather events that's happening. So our number one priority is our beaches, to ensure that the protection of our coastline, and obviously for our residents and guests to enjoy. But also, if we can establish and ensure that our coastline, our beaches are protected, we want to make sure there's a opportunity for people to walk and enjoy that amazing beach that we have. And if you go and walk along the beach, I did a surface to Coolangatta walk recently for mental health, and our beaches absolutely held up well on the southern end. It was a magnificent walk for all residents along the beachfront. So a great program. Hopefully this helps us to, this motion supports links that we can deliver now, but it also looks at ways that we can deliver challenging areas moving forward. So I'm going to put the vote to the floor. All in favour? Against? Carry. Thank you. Thank you, Ross. 7.2 2, Infrastructure Gold Coast Data Capital Program Quarterly Performance Report. We did have someone that did want to have a question. Mitch is coming in to the floor. Thank you, Mitch. Sorry? No, we did unstart it. Someone did ask for a question, did have a question, so I can't recall who unstarted it. Earlier? Peter? Yep, I knew it down. I just didn't write who it was. Yep. So keep in mind. Yep. So at 7.2, it's closed session. So we will go into close. So, Councillor Gates, was that you going to close? Oh, going to move. Councillor Marshall, Senator O'Neill. All in favour? Carry. We'll go into close. Young, move item 7.2. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Gates. Anyone want to speak against the motion? All in favour? Carry. Thank you. Now we have a general business. Now, I know Councillor Marshall is going to present on behalf of Councillor Doran. So we've got it in front of us. It's been moved from Councillor Marshall, seconded Councillor Tozer. Do you want to?
Yeah. Oh, Judy asked you to second it.
This is
Oh, gosh. Sorry about that. I've stolen it. Sorry, Councillor Marshall.
This is in relation to Central Gold Coast East-West Public Transport Corridors. So the request is that a report be presented to Council's Transport and Infrastructure Committee detailing the Central Gold Coast East-West Public Transport Corridors referenced in the Infrastructure for Australia's Fastest Growing City 2025 advocacy document, which was actually a document that we endorsed here at Council on the 3rd of December in 2024. The report should include an assessment of the anticipated benefits to the community, as well as the potential impacts on the existing road network. I guess just to put my words to it, because they're not my words, is that this... Like, we have light rail stage 3 in our area, and that's great. And obviously we're having discussions about further light rail, but light rail itself is not our only public transport, and it's really, really important that, I guess, there's a connection east-west. A lot of residents talk to us about the east-west connections. People ask me, but I don't have necessarily all the answers. And I think in consultation with Councillor Doran, this would be something that I think could enhance our ability to be able to educate residents in both our areas or all areas so that they can better access the light rail.
Would the mover consider adding a date in so that we have a not never-ending time frame for this report to come back? We absolutely support it and absolutely understand why we want to come back. I'm hoping the EGM might be able to give us an indication if this is the kind of report, since most of it is information that is already available, might be able to come back relatively quickly. Yep, just so we've got a date, and then anyone in the community that asks, you can say, look forward to it in September.
Sounds good.
So if the move is happy to change it to, say, presented by September.
Happy with that?
That's good.
Happy, Councillor Tozer?
I'm excited. Being from the west, you have to catch the 7:59 from Mudgeeraba to Robina, then you got to get on the 7:50 and get all the way to Broadbeach. Takes 30 minutes. It's not a fast bus. It's a slow bus. Let's make it quicker.
Councillor Doran, would you like to talk?
Just a quick contribution, please, Chair.
Yep.
I appreciate Councillor Marshall moving this one. This is interesting because it's been referenced a lot over the last year. In the time that since I've been in this place, there's been a couple of renders shown in a central as part of a wider central planning for our road and our transport network, but no real detail put forward. Now, I've looked back at other documents that have historically been about our transport plan, and it's inconsistent as about where the route lies and where the path leads from, often reference Miami to Robina and Nerang to Broadbeach. I think that the planning chair would acknowledge that this is and has been an important part of the planning assessment that we're looking at in terms of our new planning scheme, and we're also got a document there, the Fastest Growing City, where we endorse this, but without the detail. And then what really brought this on was that part of the delivery from the Games Authority infrastructure commitments is one of them is east-west transit on the Gold Coast. And so that's what's born this particular GBI, is because now is probably the right time to start to get some details to councillors, but also to the community where appropriate, so that we can see how our future road network is going to look, not just if there's east-west public transport corridors that are improved, but also, is there any impacts on our existing road network? And if not, then we can look to upgrade certain roads that might be suffering from serious congestion, especially around Robina. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think it is important. We know there's change of state government recently, so we know there's a lot of conversation about stage 4 light rail, and obviously this will be very important part of the 32 Olympics that was mentioned, and it'd be great to get the report back to see where their insight is at this stage. But also, I think more importantly, what we're also wanting to understand is when they do, or when we do get a clear understanding of these east-west connectabilities, what is the impact of the rest of the network? And I think that's a big challenge we have for our city is many a times we're waiting for state government or TMR-led projects, and it affects our ability to deliver infrastructure. And it'd be great that if we can get on a more aligned and hopefully a more productive plan moving forward to ensure that we're ahead of the game also. So, Councillor Young.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll be supporting this motion. Thanks to Councillor Doran for introducing it. I think we first had a briefing about these east-west corridors 8 or 10 years ago, and it's kind of fallen in a bit of a hole, and we've been advised that the state government is the lead in this project, but we don't get much information about it. It is really critical to the future planning, not only for transportation means, but for growth. And maybe we'll need to put some pressure on the new state government once we've had this report in September, which will inform us. Thanks.
Absolutely not. I think I think I've said all I can say.
To you all in favour? Against? Carry. Any more general businesses? 4? Yep. Any more general business? Close the meeting at 4:06. Thank you, everyone.